Hi everybody. I am live, I believe. I'm really excited about today. And we're talking about how the language of your genius can translate into a livelihood of substance. So I'm going to just wait for a second to see if anybody tunes in today. And say hello if you're here. Let me know where you are, where you're from. And I'm a little bit late because I just opened up this group and I had a message saying a group member reported content, and the content that was reported was a comment that said, "Thank you for your truth and beauty and substance." And that was the comment that was reported. So really strange. She said it was an accident. So I am just I'm a little rattled, but at the same time have had this moment just now of it wouldn't matter, it doesn't matter, because this is not about the impact that someone chooses to have about this content, and it's not about the feedback that I get. It's about what's coming from my soul. It's about what's coming through as my genius wants to speak. So hi Joanna, hi Monique, so nice to see you. I'm so glad you're here. You're gonna love this. So day 2 of a business with substance, and yesterday we talked about, I'm just gonna jump right in. Yesterday we talked about livelihood as a broader container for entrepreneurship, and why I'm feeling the broadness and the expansiveness of livelihood beyond the container of entrepreneurship is that livelihood connotates the way that we live and the way that we work. And when we can bring into balance the way that we live and work, and bring into both the really palpable connection that we have with both, and that we have with how we actually stream the highest level consciousness through how we live and work, that is when we experience fulfillment. That's when we experience high reward, high soul reward for ourselves, and we feel full, and it helps us to stop the elusive chase. So we talked about livelihood as a broader spectrum of how we show up in the world, and we talked about genius and our specific, innate, unique, blueprinted genius that we all have. Our genius lives inside of us, and it's so specifically blueprinted to each of us. It holds its own essence, it holds its own qualities, and it holds its own language. And so, the love language of our livelihood and how we speak that love language of our genius out into the world is really the essence that brings us into this place of creating and living and experiencing a livelihood of substance, because it's really based and founded on the substance of who we are, on the substance of our genius. And so our genius has its own language. My genius has its language. Your genius has its language. And it's really amazing to be able to unearth the language of our own geniuses, and then be able to express it in our own way. And in order to do that, express it in our own way, is first we need to unlock it, and we talked about that yesterday, the importance of really unlocking our juju, our own brand of magic, our own genius, our own higher intuitive strand of communication. And first we unlock it, and then we begin to communicate it, or we begin to allow our genius to communicate through us. And this is what I'm most excited about, because when you think about how you show up in how you live and how you work, how you show up in your life, how you show up in your work, how you show up as a parent, how you show up in your community, how you show up online, is really up to you. And it's the inner core work that is required to show up at a higher frequency. And when you show up at a higher frequency, in a higher frequency, through the language of your genius, you are reaching and magnetizing those who are a match to that frequency. And you can be showing up from that lower frequency of fear and lack, or you can be showing up from and allowing genius through, which is always higher frequency. Your genius does not know low frequency. It doesn't visit there. And so if you're delivering and expressing and communicating as you show up in your life and your work through versus fear or lack, and you're showing up through the frequency of love and possibility and abundance, those are two very different ways to show up. Or you could be showing up in terms of, your work, your job, your business, your livelihood, and how you actually, bring yourself to your work in the world from a place of, I have to work. It's hard. Building a business is hard. Living, doing this job is hard. Working is hard. Working is a chore. Or you can be allowing your genius to come through your work from a very, very much higher frequency, from a higher vantage point and higher perspective around work is an act of creation. Work is an act of communicating what's in my soul and what's in my heart. So the language that you give to or assign through the inner work that you do to elevate your frequency from the lower, dense, heavier frequencies into the higher ones, the language that you give to your life and your livelihood determines the quality of both. So that inner language is really important to pay attention to. And, that's what we're going to talk about tomorrow is that self-mastery around what is that inner language and how do you peel out and, uncover and unearth and pull through that higher resonant language. But when your inner language is operating from a lower subconscious, lower frequency level, that's what you manifest. That's the reality that you create. That's what you put out in your life and in your work. That's how you step in, and that's how you experience your life in your work, because all of our external experiences are a direct reflection of our internal experience. And so what I'm really excited about is that yesterday I was in a group, and the person who was leading the group, she spoke the words love language. And when I heard the words, it's like the words kind of spiraled in and through, and now they're spiraling out into this creative, into a creation. And this is what I'm sharing with you today, and I'm so excited about, because for some of you, let me know if you've heard of the five love languages. It's a book that was written. It's a really brilliant little book that was written about how we experience receiving and giving love. And we each hold a very unique love language. We each speak and experience our own love language. Let me know if you've read the book or if you know what I'm talking about. But if you don't, I'll just give you a brief overview. We each have, hi Becky, we each have our own love language. And so how we experience love and receive it and give it could be that we experience it through physical connection. That's one love language. Another love language is that we could experience love through receiving and giving meaningful gifts. We could experience love and receive and give love through quality time. We could receive and give love through positive affirmation, so through communication, through I love yous. And we're all amazing book. Yeah, physical touch is your primary. That's amazing. Yeah, that's awesome, Patty. And so really great that you're aware of what your primary love language is, because when we understand what our love language is, we can then better understand how to cultivate what we need in our lives. So if you need physical touch in your life, then that is something that you want to cultivate, because it really renders you in a really high frequency experience, and you experience love so deeply. Mine is through communication. My son's is through quality time. My daughter's is through receiving and giving really meaningful gifts. My husband is through physical touch and affection. So all that to say that how we experience our own inner language is key to how we move forth and go forth in our life and in our livelihood. How we experience and apply the concept of the love languages is what I'm really excited about, is how we apply that into the language, and how we apply that toward the language of our genius, right? Because our genius, thank goodness for your dog right now. Yeah, thank goodness for your dog right now, because your dog is providing you that, and I'm sure that you're experiencing some pain around not having the physical touch, if that's your love language right now. And sending you lots of love is one thing, but it's not fulfilling that deep language experience that you require in your DNA for love. And I'm so glad that you have your puppy right now. So the language of our genius is equally as important, because how our genius expresses itself through our livelihood is in equal measure how the quality and the fulfillment we're going to feel around what we do in the world. Our soul's work, our livelihood, our life's work, and our lives are the quality of that is going to be determined by the quality of the expression of our truth, of the expression of our genius, of the expression of our higher intuitive magic. And so understanding what your genius love language is, I guess, or your genius language is paramount, because it's going to help you. It's going to help you to not only unlock it and allow it to reveal itself, because you're going to be nurturing it, you're going to be feeding it with what it needs, but it's also going to allow your genius to express itself in the fullest expression, in the fullest form that it possibly can. And when you do that, you're vibrating at the highest possible frequency that you can possibly be vibrating at. And when that happens, we all know that we are in flow. Those are the moments of being in flow. And what we want to do, obviously, is to increase the number of moments and increase the length of time that we are in flow with our genius. So our genius language is superbly important to understand. And so when you think about those moments when you're in flow and really connected to your genius, which that's what flow is. When you're in a flow state, you are connected to your higher intuitive genius wisdom, the divine God. You are connected to that essence when you are in flow. So think about when you are in flow. If you roll the camera back, to sort of what kind of clicked in you to get you in flow. What was that? That's one way of starting to unpack the language of our genius. And this is what I'm excited about, is because this is what I do for people, is I help them unlock the language of their genius. I just had never put it into those words before. And it excites me because it's my genius. And so I'm going to give you an example. When I have recognized in the past year that I'm one of my abilities, I call it a psychic ability, because we all have abilities that are beyond our physical, and some of us are clairvoyant, some of us are clairaudient, some of us are clairsentient, and my unique ability to receive through verbal words, like I literally hear things. They drop in. I hear them in my dream. I hear words. I hear sounds. And And so the clairaudience, the ability to receive my genius, because when I hear, it's my genius talking to me, right? It's that quiet whisper of the soul, the whisper of your genius is always talking to you and has the capacity to always be talking to you. And so for me, and I'm sharing this as my example, and I want you to think about yourself and how you receive your genius, the insights, the intuitive hits, the downloads. How do they arrive? For me, they arrive through words, they arrive through language, they arrive through sound. And I believe it's why I have worn the Om symbol for the last 5 years, 6 years, ever since I found it. I was looking for an Om symbol, and I have spent a lot of time during some really, really deep, dark grief chanting Om. And because Om is the root sound of all sound. Om is what the monks chant in the monasteries. It's this collective vibration that is so deeply resonant with all of the universe. So, having said that, so for me, it's sound. It's word. And words hold sound. Words hold a vibration for me, and that's why I have this capacity to, speak words and shift people through my words, whether they're written, whether they're voiced, whatever that is. So it's sound. For you, it could be sensory. It could be literally a sensory experience inside your body. It could literally be for you, and these are some of the genius languages that I think are really important to start unpacking, is what are these possible genius love languages that we have access to, and how does our genius speak through us? And so it could be an image. You could be highly, highly activated. Your genius could be highly activated and deliver the insights to you, and the genius downloads and the ideas and the opportunities to you through image and visual. You might receive your genius through, and how it communicates with you through, those are the three that off the top right now I'm thinking of, is the sensory, the physical, sensational, sensory through body sensory experiences, through visual, through auditory, could be through a knowing in your gut. And a knowing in your gut is even more subtle than words or images or sensations. But that's another level of your ability. And so our job, my job, I feel, and our job is to start to uncover and discover and explore how our genius communicates with us. Because when our genius communicates with us, and as our genius communicates with us, I want to say she for some reason, it might be he for you, it might be it, whatever the essence of it is for you, is the divine essence of all that is the higher consciousness of knowing and wisdom that exists outside of our human frame, and is the essence of truth that delivers and communicates with us what we need to know, what we are, answers to questions that we are asking, what our next step is. How do we show up here as parent or entrepreneur or spouse in the face of this? How do we show up here as employee who's being asked to work at home and just doing this and not how do we show up in our life and our livelihood through the lens of our genius? And how do we show up in a way that we do it through the voice of our genius as often and as much as possible? Because And what that really points to is how often or how much or how well are we connecting to the higher essence of God, to the divine. What is our commitment to connecting with that higher part of ourselves, with that intuitive intelligence, with that genius part of ourselves that is the highest possible frequency transmitter of reality possible. So how committed are we to connecting with the divine is going to be a direct representation of how much we experience freedom and fulfillment, the inner freedom in ourselves and the fulfillment and the soul, like the soul fulfillment. It's going to determine how fulfilled we feel in our work in the world, in our soul's journey, in our spiritual journey, in our families, in every aspect of our life, is going to really hinge on how we are connected to that divine genius source. And so, to kind of bring that back, how do we do that? One of the ways that we can start doing that, and what I wanted to bring and offer today, is really, how do we understand the voice and the language of our genius and how it communicates to us and with us and through us, because it communicates through us. So that's one way of doing that, and really recognizing the path that your genius travels is huge. Can you see how huge it is? I'm so excited about this. Let me know if this is resonating with you. Thank goodness for my dog. Right? Yeah. Let me know what is occurring for you as you're hearing me say this, and if this is resonating for you. And because your soul wants to connect with you. Your soul wants to communicate with you. And the degree to which you allow it is everything. And so how do you allow your soul to connect and communicate with you? It becomes the question. And so let's understand the language of our genius as a foundational place to work from, and to start practicing and developing practices to reconnect and call in our genius, because we know the code, we know the key that it needs to unlock itself and to reveal itself through us, and then show up and communicate through us. And as we allow that to happen, and as we develop and cultivate this skill, we begin to heal and transform our inner language. We begin to raise our inner language from a lower based frequency into a higher one, because we're inviting the higher frequency language to come in and replace and install itself into our psyche, into our being, into our body. Literally, we begin to embody the higher level frequency of our genius. And when we do that, we can begin to really transform our lives, transform the way in which we encounter and interact with the way that we live, with the way that we work, with the way that we show up. So let me know if this is resonating with you and for you, and or if you have any questions. And I want to say that one of the things that I've been, as you may know, I have developed, this really resonates. I see how I might cultivate this in my new business and have it feel so right. Yeah, like how do we have it feel so right? This is how we have it feel so right. So what is your sense, Monique, around what your genius love language is for you? You've experienced some really brilliant aha moments and insights and created from them. I've seen you do it. And so what do you sense? What do you think? And it's play with it. It's not something that you might recognize fully right away, but play with it and be open to receive clues and receive guidance and receive signals in your life that really point you in that direction. So what I'm really excited about is I am offering a mentor in my pocket month to month mastermind, and inside this mastermind, and it's going to start late next week. And if you want to be in my mastermind, in the vicinity of this energy, in the vicinity of diving deeper into unlocking your genius, finding out and discovering how your genius communicates, how your genius becomes the expression of your soul, and how your soul expression becomes the expression of your message, and how your message becomes the expression of the brand that is you, and how you show up in your business and your life, then join me, because we are going to be really diving deep into this, because it's important. And the gift of giving, I make many gifts for people and love to do it. So your love language is the gift of giving. Interesting. So what is your genius love language? You know, your genius is here to express itself, and you are giving of yourself, of your soul's heart language. And you do that so beautifully with your writing and facilitating of workshops. And so the question is, how do you bring in, call in, recognize, acknowledge, commit to, connect with, invite, and cultivate that genius? How do you bring it in as a great integral part of your life and livelihood is the question. So, all right. Okay. So thanks for joining, everybody. And if you want to have a mentor in your pocket and really bring substance, this kind of substance, to your life and livelihood, then PM me, and I'm happy to talk to you about whether this is for you. And on that note, I will leave you. Have a great and wonderful day, everybody, and take care. Talk soon. Bye-bye.